Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Two Legs. This is episode 194. We are a Paul McCartney podcast. I am one of your two co hosts. My name is Andy Nichols, and I've been with Tom for 3.5 years now on this show. And joining me today is indeed one of the co founders of Two Legs. You might know him from his other wildly acclaimed solo Beatles podcast that he does with his comrades Kid O'Toole, Ken Michaels, and Joe Mayo, and that's Talk More Talk, which is on YouTube now every other Monday, just about. They were Facebook, but now they're on YouTube, and they've got a great show, and really one of the inspirations for all of us when that show started. Almost, 5 years ago now, Tom? It'll be this year?
Oh, five maybe. We started.
Egypt Station,
Yeah,
right?
we started with Egypt Station. So yeah, so fourth quarter would be 5 years. Yeah, so we're looking at 4.5 right now.
Wow. So there's the man and the myth and the legend, Mr. Tom Hunyadi.
Ah,
And hello, sir, and how are you today?
I'm wonderful, and I guess we'll leave one topic alone today. That's probably a little
We're pressing on. We're
sore.
just we're just pressing on.
But hey, look, like you said a couple weeks ago, you guys hadn't made it to the playoffs for a few years, and I get it, man. I get it. You're passionate about something, and they finally make it to, and then they get a win during the playoffs too, and that's and that's great.
Yeah.
Get your hopes up even more, and then unfortunately, yeah. But I tell you, man, as I get older, that's the toughest part for me is just how it affects my nerves and just how just you get so into it, and then when they when the player or a team loses, you're just so devastated. And I remember I'm a tennis fan, so Roger Federer is
Mm-hmm.
my favorite tennis player. So, I've seen him in a few finals where, I mean, it's going so well for him. And then, one little thing just turns the tide. And then all of a sudden, there's, I remember the US Open one year, and I forgot the guy, Port del Toro or something like that. I forgot his name, but, yeah, I was looking like I thought he would pull it out, but then, he ended up losing that final. But man, it just sucks. I mean, I remember too when back in when the Pistons when they had their second big run there in the early 2000s.
2000s, right?
Yeah, with
Yeah.
Chauncey Billups and
Ben Wallace.
Ben Wallace and Tayshaun Prince and Rip.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that was that was intense too.
Those were some intense games. That was some
Yeah,
Pistons.
you
Did
know
they win two titles or one?
They won the one. They got the
The one,
one.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, the 5 game sweep against the Lakers. You know,
Yes.
and then
2004, I want to say.
3 or 4, something like that. Yeah, 4 maybe. And then the following year, I think they made it again against San Antonio, and I think San Antonio beat them
Yeah.
that year. So I mean, yeah, it's just it can be so devastating. It sucks. I
It,
know.
it does, but we have to press on, and
Yeah.
press on we will here. But before we go into what our show is today, Tom's got a little bit of Camp news for us. Tell us, what's
Yeah.
Paul been doing?
Well, what do you do when you're a female country star and you just got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? What do you do? What do you do? You record a rock and roll album, right? That's what you
Yeah,
do. It's a no-brainer.
no brainer.
So yeah, so I mean, I know this is a little bit of old news, especially by the time this gets posted, but
Mm-hmm.
it has been reported that Paul McCartney will be on Dolly Parton's upcoming rock and roll record, which is kind of exciting. Stevie Nicks will also be appear on there. Elton John, Pink. So there'll be a couple heavy hitters on that record, and I'm kind of curious to see what a rock and roll uh, Dolly Parton
Yeah,
record's
what's
going
that
to
going to
sound
sound
like.
like? You'll
Yeah.
buy it, right?
Oh well, maybe. I mean, and this is not this won't be the first time that Dolly Parton and Paul McCartney appears on a
Yeah.
record too. So there's that Yusuf song that they appeared on as well, and the name is escaping me at the moment. So just leave the name in the comments, and but that's it. Unfortunately for news, again, it's just quiet right now. So I'm sure. We'll be hearing the news for the release of the Red Rose Speedway
Half speed,
half speed
probably
master tune.
February, late
Yeah,
February maybe.
yeah. So, well, what are we doing today, buddy?
So yeah, so today we're gonna do something a little different, actually very different from what we usually do here
Mm,
on the solo Paul McCartney podcast. And we stay away from it for a good reason because there's so much to talk about with Paul's solo career. But I thought for this one, we're gonna maybe do this in two parts. But for this show, we're gonna be picking our top 10 favorite pre 1967 Beatle Paul songs. Now, that
mm-hmm.
could be a song that he sang lead on, could be a cover, could be obviously one that he wrote and sang on, but it also could be a cover. And everything from 67 on. And the reason why we chose 67 is that his work is so prolific from 67 on, well, even
Right,
66 on. But really, if you look at that dividing line of time, there's so many big hits, right, from 67 on, from
right.
Pepper, Mystery Tour, White Album, Abbey Road, Let It Be. Those are like all time. So we were like, let's look back at the early period, right, up until 66, and choose our 10 favorite Beatle Paul songs, which we don't do. I mean, obviously we cover the Beatles a little bit, but we're a solo Paul show, so it's a very interesting time frame to look at in a breakdown because when you look at the Beatles' career, right, you can clearly see two periods in
Mm-hmm.
terms of how the group was kind of guided. Go look at the songs on everything up until including Rubber Soul. They're largely John-dominated records with a couple of, I mean, obviously Paul's got some songs on there too, but
Right.
even John and Paul co-lead vocals,
Mm-hmm.
and then really from 67 on, it becomes Paul becomes the guiding force of the band. And whether that was because John checked out and he was kind of just shot, living the married, unhappy life out there. And to me, it's always been very clearly to see two lines of in the sand of where the vision and the leadership of the group started and when Paul took over. So in this episode today, and we're probably going to do a part two from 67 to 70, almost like the red. This is like, consider this
Right,
our red and blue album. This is our red and blue album episode,
right.
right? Today's episode is the red album,
Right.
right? We'll do the blue album eventually, but we're doing the red album, but only Paul stuff in the same period. Okay, so we're gonna go 10 songs. We're gonna alternate back and forth, tell you how we picked them, and I'm sure we have a couple of. We probably have a few that will probably be the same, but I know we're gonna have probably at least one or two differences. So
Well, I hope so. And again, these are just our lists.
mhm.
They're not your lists, so they might not be right to you, but
Yeah,
they're right to us, and that's okay. And if your favorite song, and look, there's going to be a couple heavy hitters that are not on my list because it's
yep,
just right now. This is just my favorite right now. You know what I mean?
yes.
A couple of those heavy hitters have been my favorite for decades. You know what I
But they're
mean?
not going to be on this. They're not going to be on either of our lists. Good point.
And it's like people will say, "Well, how can you have a top 10 Paul list without so and so?"
Because we can,
Because you can,
and
and
these
it's
there are current favorites.
right, current, and that's the underlying word right there. It's the current favorites.
So
So
before we
go ahead.
dive in, just give me some of your thoughts there, Tom, on Beatles period McCartney. Your favorite periods of it, overlooked periods. I mean, obviously the celebrated period, but what going through these? I mean, when you were growing up as a Beatle fan, did you gravitate towards just the Paul stuff, or there's some of
Oh
the
no, no,
John,
I was
right?
no, yeah, oh yeah, I was a John junkie. I still am a Beatle John junkie. He's when I think about the Beatles, when I think about my favorite Beatles songs, a lot of them are John songs.
John
You
songs,
know,
yeah.
you can't disregard a lot of those wonderful songs that he sang. That he sang lead on. It's just
No,
fantastic. A big part of my life was spent listening to a lot of those songs over and over and over,
and that's
like we all do.
you go through the albums, you're like, that's a
Right,
great song, John. That's a great song, John. That's kind of what
right,
led me to my personal belief of, how you look at the band and how their creativity
right,
between 62, professionally between 62 and 66, really
right.
in that time period. And Revolver really is where
Well,
the tide changes a little bit,
yeah, I would say
a
almost
little
starting
bit.
with Rubber Soul a little bit, but then yeah, switching into
Really,
Switching to
Revolver.
Revolver. I mean, and then you had the two non-album singles too, right? You had the Paperback Writer and
Rain, and we can work it
you know,
out
Get
into a
Out and
tripper.
Tripper, right? You know, so you look at those two tracks too, and you can kind of see the tides turning a little bit, but yeah, it's really 65. So I would say like 65 up to like probably 68 would probably be my favorite, period for Paul
For
songs.
Paul, for
Yeah,
Beatle,
yeah,
between that period there,
right,
yeah.
right.
All right, well, we're going to kick it off here with number 10. And Thomas, why don't you tell us what you have at number 10 for pre-67 Paul?
When I talk about loving the video for "For You" so much, it's because I experienced exactly what that kid experienced. So, and it's been a couple times, but the main fact is because the night I met my wife, we lived in Chicago. I was a couple blocks away from home, so I usually walked. So the song I sang on my way home was "I've Just Seen a Face," and that'll always be in my top 10. It was always in my top 10 prior to, but it has more of a meaning now to me. Especially the opening line, "I've just seen a face, I can't forget the time or place where we just met." She's just the girl for me, and I want all the world to see we've met. And it's a staple in his live shows. It's and I love that opening acoustic solo, if you want to call it that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's always been a big standout to me, that opening solo. Because you usually don't hear a long solo like that in a Beatles song. You know what I mean? So that was kind of unique in a way as well. So, yeah, I was just seeing a face is I got for number 10 right now, and plus these aren't really in any order, really either.
Not
If you
really.
think
I mean, you're
about it,
just, yeah.
yeah, I'm just doing my 10. I mean, I will say what my favorite is from that period when I get to that song,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, it's I've just seen a face at number 10.
And again, a case where the American market got it right by opening up the American Rubber Soul with that track
Oh,
instead of burying
okay.
it on side 2
Mm.
of the UK Help, which is probably how you discovered it, just on Help, right? You probably didn't know it on Rubber Soul.
No, no, no. British, yeah, British,
Yeah,
British, British LPs all the way for me.
all the way. See,
Yeah.
again, a case where, again, I kind of have both the experiences of listening to it with American albums and then also getting the UK. So it's interesting to know how you discover these songs and where you. To me, I've Just Seen a Face is the perfect album opener, and it's the only case where the American counterpart is better sequenced than the British one, in my opinion. Having Rubber Soul sets the mood for. I've Just Seen a Face sets the mood totally for Rubber Soul, so that's a
I
good pick.
Yeah, and I should experience the U.S. Rubber Soul. I mean, I hear it, people talk very highly.
You've never listened to it?
No, I had no
Oh
interest. I never
man,
had any interest in listening to it. But
you
I will, because I mean, just so many people, including yourself, talk so highly of it. So I'll give it a
it's
listen.
give it a listen, and maybe one day it's another Beatle project in the pipeline that people want is a vinyl reissue of the Capitol albums.
Mm.
And I know you would probably be all in for those.
Well, they did the CDs.
They did
A
the
couple
CDs
times.
a couple times, the
Right.
Volume 1 and Volume 2,
And then separately.
and then separately, but
Yeah.
they were really kind of, for my money, the Volume 1 and Volume 2 that were issued in 2004 and 2006 were the best ones because they were exactly reproduced as the album sounded. What they did with that box set in 2014 is that they took they took the American albums and they used the British, the original British tracks without any of that Capitol's post, sweetening or extra reverb, and
Yeah.
put it out and just put them on there. So it's a little bit of a different lift. Like the covers, they put every album in there. Hey Jude, Yesterday and Today. Like it's done right, but they used the British tracks and not the American ones that were done, which to me kind of kills the whole point of the whole thing because you want that unique listening experience, good or bad. And Beatle purists will tell you that that's bastardized listening. You should never listen to the Beatles that way, and I get that as a purist, but we can't help it. That's how you were raised on the records,
Right.
and that's all you know. So I think you would dig some of those. Listening
Oh, I'm sure.
experiences.
I'm sure.
Number 10 for me, we're going to the second UK Beatles album with the
Okay.
Beatles, and I chose actually a song that Paul did not write, which Meredith
Oh,
Wilson. It's from Meredith Wilson wrote it. And it's called "Till There Was You,"
okay.
as seen in the play and movie "The Music Man," which and the Beatles, of course, did on Ed Sullivan.
Right, right.
It's funny when you look at Paul written, only Paul kind of covered songs in those first couple of albums. There's not too
Mm,
many.
right.
There's not too many. There's a lot that he and John do together,
Hmm.
but the individual solo songs only. You've got "Hold Me Tight," right? Okay, which is Paul, which almost made my list, but it didn't. But "Till There Was You," I think, is a good one because it just encompasses those early Beatle period days, and they sang it on Ed Sullivan. So they thought that much of it to sing it on the Ed Sullivan Show to include it in their
Right.
set when they were on TV in February of '64. So I'm going to go with "Till There Was You" as a cover at my number 10. Your number
Mm.
9?
Number 9. Yeah. Well, till there was you is an interesting pick. I'm kind of surprised you picked that a little bit. You
I
know,
get
I,
it.
yeah, no, I've always enjoyed the song. It's just I don't think I've taken it as seriously as other Paul tracks, but it's one I don't shy away from for sure. But going to my number 9 is a song that is just gained popularity for me over the last 20 years or so. It's one that I never really taken seriously until, like I said, the thing to the last 20 years. But that's things we said today. Uh, yeah, yeah, and
Good
uh,
pick.
and I've said that I think if you want to consider this one of the Jane songs or not, but I've said that recently, or a lot of times over the last couple of years, that I think that she is Paul's best muse when it comes to writing songs. But I love. There's a couple things that I love right here. Someday when I'm lonely, wishing you weren't so far away, and then I love when he switches it up to someday when we're dreaming, deep in love, not a lot to say. I really dig the change and kind of like the same style, rhyming and all that stuff, but he just changes it up to someday, when I'm, and then to we're, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kind of like that, meaning that they're together then, and you know,
And the
uh,
chorus, the
yeah,
chorus is just killer.
yeah,
Boom, me, I'm
yeah.
just a
So
lucky guy.
exactly,
Oh,
yeah. Love to hear you say that love is love or love is luck. Yeah.
yeah.
Again, I, when you think about songs like this, you think about one. Um, I think it's Dylan-esque in a way.
Good analogy.
Lyrically a little bit, but still kind of innocent. Um, but then you also got the influence of Lennon there as well, who I think if I don't, I want to say Paul's a great lyricist, but I don't think he would have been as great as he is without
Oh,
working without Lennon.
no. And you've got those diminished chords in there. It's a very
Yeah,
in minor key. It's just that's a great deep
yeah.
album cut. One that he's revisited
Yes,
numerous times as
right.
in a solo act and really kind of really bringing it back to life in a whole new arrangement for the Tripping the Live Fantastic
Mm,
live album with
right.
a nice going kind of really awesome arrangement of that song. A little bit, not as a little more rocking. Not so much
Right.
just a fast paced acoustic ballad, and they have that great segue into Eleanor Rigby with Robbie
Mm,
McIntosh with that great solo on the outro.
right, right. And then Dylan covered it on the Art of McCartney
Hmm.
set. So um,
There you
yeah,
go, brother.
yeah, great
Good
track.
choice.
Yeah.
Number 9 for me. Another curveball. Another curveball because it's not a song that he wrote either, and
Really?
it actually has not officially been released yet ever.
Hmm.
Has not been, and this goes back to January 1st, 1962, with the Decca auditions in New
Ah.
Year's Day. And this song for me, number 9, is "Love of the Loved,"
Oh, okay.
which is, I think, just a great song. I can't believe it has not come out on anthology or anything else since. "Love of the Loved," which I believe he gave to Cilla Black, and she did it, is a great song. It's bouncy. I mean, are you hugely familiar with it, Tom?
Not hugely. I know it. I've heard it a few times, but not enough to really appreciate it as much as you are right now.
it it's one of those gems. in the early '60s from the Beatles to me that just has largely gone unnoticed, and it's not seen any really official release. I think "Love of the Loved" is, and again, it has that raw, early kind of Beatles energy to it, which I think is so great. And Paul was so not really sure of himself as a lead singer. You can hear him kind of wobbling, on the alternate take of "Love Me Do" and things like that. He was really so self-conscious as a lead singer in those early days, before he really got the confidence, which is why John was such the driving force of the band. So it's just an early track that, again, we're only looking at this kind of 62 to 66 period, and I'm telling, like Tom told you at the start, there's gonna be some heavy hitters not on this list, and this is not a heavy hitter, but it's a deep cut. But I think that we have the kind of show that I think our viewers and fans can appreciate some of these picks too. And if they can, great, and if they can't, that's fine too. But just be nice about it. That was my number 9.
That was your number 9. Number 8. Let's see, which way I want to go. Going to Help. I've always liked this one. I like this one more and more now than I ever have, and that's Another Girl. I just love the opening chorus for I've Got Another Girl. And then, and I love the line, I ain't no fool and I don't take what I don't want. I just thought that's just a killer line from Paul. Again, I think that's a big influence from John right there,
Big.
And Another Girl is great in so many ways. It's a fun bit in the movie.
On the beach in the Bahamas there.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. But yeah, this one again, when I'm first discovering the band, listening to those albums, this one didn't really cry out to me that much until
early on.
Yeah, early on, and it's really weird how some of these songs have crept up, into my soul, over the last 20, 30 years pre, first 10 years or so.
You know what it is too, Tom? I think there's so much attention paid to the classics, and rightly so, because they are going to be remembered for hundreds of years. So when so much attention gets paid on them, you're like, well, let's just see what this other track is about and listen to it. So that, I think, is the curious listener, fan, and all of us to say, okay, we know it's good, but what else is out there that really hasn't been talked about or explored as much? And Another Girl is one of those, which is also on my list too, not in the same spot, but it's, I have actually 2 of your songs already are also in my top 10.
Oh, good.
so far. But you're right. It's you sometimes as you get older, you hear these songs in a different context, and you're like, man, that's really good. And Paul playing it live again. I think we counted on 2 legs on another show. I think there's only a handful of Beatles songs he actually has not played live. Another Girl is one of them. Right. And I think I've in my 12 times seeing him, I've seen him do it at least once or twice. It's just that, again, that that chorus middle 8 stuff on these tracks, killer. Like things we said today, Another Girl, where John comes in, Another Girl who will love me to the end. That is so freaking good.
Through thick and thin, she'll always be my friend.
I mean, pick the needle up and play it again. Right. It's that good. Like that's those moments are like, that's why I always say, like, the deepest Beatle album cut is 100 times better than the Rolling Stones' best song. Go. That's it. Put out Another Girl as a single in 1965. Number 1.
Right.
Number 1 single, guaranteed. So good choice, brother.
Yeah.
Number
8, is it?
8 for me, is going to be one you just said to start off your list, and that's I've Just Seen a Face. And we kind of talked about it when you mentioned it, and it's for all the reasons why. I think of it in the Rubber Soul context, and Brian Wilson does too, which inspired him for Pet Sounds, an album that I know you not a big fan of either. So it's that kind of Laurel Canyon songwriter stuff that really influenced a lot of people. The American version of that album. So I think I like the Wings Over America live version of, which is it's a little different.
Right.
And in that acoustic set there, but all the reasons why you said, that's why. I mean, I've Just Seen a Face got to be on there for pre-67. So
right, and then Before we get to seven, you mentioned Laurel Canyon, and we should just mention the passing of David Crosby,
Mm.
and the fact that they have been on when they've been on stage together. They have done Blackbird a lot on stage together. I don't think they recorded it. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody in the audience, but or watching. Because I know they've done it live a bunch of times, and then as they do it live, they announce it as a song by their favorite musician. I believe
Let's
that's
let's
you
let's
know
let's do a little sidebar. If now that you brought
yeah
him up on
yeah
David Crosby and the Byrds
yeah.
and CSNY, what are your initial? Are you a moderate fan, a diehard? I'm a casual. But what
Yeah,
about you?
I would say I'm a little bit more of a casual fan of Crosby. I mean, I love the
Oh,
you know
your
the
post, that song you posted.
yeah,
Yes.
is on his first solo record, and the song called "Laughing" is just musically is fantastic. But Crosby really sings those songs well, and the musicians that he has. I mean, from Neil Young to Joni Mitchell, members of Jefferson, Starship or Airplane, whatever
Airplane, sure.
Airplane they were called then. Fantastic. And then songs from those first two albums. One being Guinevere, which like some of these songs on here, and other songs that we'll talk about later. I
Hmm.
mean, just the acoustic. The acoustic sound, the soft, quiet acoustic sound, and the harmonies, throughout a lot of those songs are just, all you can do is just sit and appreciate, you know, what he brings to the table. And I can't. Oh, here it is.
And I know you had him and
Yeah.
Nash did an album together as
Well, they
well.
did. They did multiple. They did
Multiple, but
multiple.
there's
Yeah.
that famous
Yeah.
one from the early
Yeah.
'70s, right?
Right. Yeah. If I could only remember my name. This is the. This
That's
is.
the, that's
This
his
is.
that's his first solo
His
album,
first
right?
solo album right here, and I think he performed "Laughing" on that tour, that Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young tour. He performed that song "Laughing," on the four
See now,
corners or whatever it's
for
called,
no, the
the
yeah, but see,
four
this
way.
is
Yeah,
the four-way street, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
This is a great example why I think it's such a great the ability to learn about new old music, as I call it.
hmm
Now, I'm an average, I know the average Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young stuff. I have a couple other albums, but I don't really have that. I don't have that album, and I don't really know it. I've seen it in record
hmm
shops for years and years, but I've never had the inclination to listen to it. And there, something happens, and you bring it to, and then you learn something about it, and you go. So
right,
I think that's sad. Obviously, sad that he's passed, and we posted that picture of him with the visiting the Beatles for the Day in the Life session,
right,
and his
yeah,
story about that, how he heard the last chord drop, and he was like his mind was blown, right?
right, yeah, yeah, and you listen to songs like, and he had kind of a unique voice too. I mean, you listen to songs like "Almost Cut My Hair" and "Long
Yeah,
Time Gone." Those, when he's not harmonizing,
just a
and
song before I go.
yeah, just a song, really unique voice. And when he's singing, I mean, when he's cooking, I mean, he is cooking. And again, kind of, people know about you know what am I saying here? The
What
riff,
the
the riff
oh the
between
the, the, the
the riff
animosity.
between, yeah, the riff in between the other three, Steele's, Nash, and Young. You know, Nash came out and said some nice stuff. Young has
Real
come out and
Nash,
said
since his
some,
passing, has been nothing but loving and
right.
tribute, and even Neil posted something,
Yeah, yeah,
and
no, did.
nothing negative. I think David just sent that to us. Nothing negative,
Yeah.
because I mean, in the end, is it all worth it to carry on and be like that? It's just not worth it to do that. So, and I saw Nash did a couple CSNY songs when I saw him over the summer, in a small engagement of
Mm-hmm.
people to do that, which was fun. But great, another video that I saw it live when it was on with David Crosby, Jimmy Webb, the
Mm.
singer
Yep.
songwriter,
Yep.
and Vince Gill at the
Mm.
Brian Wilson tribute show in 2001. Did a killer version of the Beach Boys song "Surfs Up," and you Beach Boys fans out there, it's not surf music, so Tom ain't listening to it. But I think, Tom, you would appreciate it because of
Yeah.
the songwriting and that kind of song. "Surfs Up," and Crosby kills it on that song. Jimmy Webb opens the song. I'm sorry, Vince Gill opens the song. Jimmy Webb takes the second part, and Crosby finishes it out. It's a really complex piece of music. Those of you that don't know Surf's Up, and Crosby at that show killed it. And that's kind of was like another point. Like I was like, wow, this guy. Again, he's not the lead vocalist, but he's that guy that can kind of. He's like
Right.
the guy that can kind of bring the glue, the harmonies, and obviously the songwriting.
Yeah. So, if you're not familiar with some of the tracks, I would definitely recommend the song Laughing from his
Mm-hmm.
first solo. I would definitely recommend Guinevere. I would
Guinevere is
definitely,
great.
yeah.
What year did that album originally
Was
first come
that
out, Tom?
69 or 70?
Okay.
Yeah. And then Long Time Gone and Almost Cut My Hair. I mean, those two
Yes.
tracks as well are just, phenomenal. So,
Yeah. So it was a little bit of a side track there on
yeah.
David Crosby because it was a significant passing at the age of 81, and
Yeah.
God knows he had a rough life, and I think he lived a lot longer than
Well,
he
oh
thought he would.
geez, yeah. I mean, addiction. I mean, he spent time in jail and
Oh,
the liver
the liver,
transplant.
the
Yeah,
liver.
I remember that firsthand. And I remember the backlash too about how he got because he got it and it's because he was a celebrity. A lot of people were not
Right.
were not happy about that. But excuse me. But yeah, just a wonderful talent.
And as you
And
mentioned, as you've told me many times, brother, since we got together, the next
yeah.
10 years are not going to be fun
Oh,
ones for our icons. And we
no,
see
they're
why
not.
now. And
Yeah,
it's
no,
really
they're not.
not. And it's going to come for us all. But this is just a fact of life. And it sucks. It really
Yeah,
sucks.
yeah. I mean, just enjoy the music now while you can. Appreciate them now while they're alive. Don't be one of those people that waits till they die to buy their music. If you have any interest in any musician now that's in their 70s or 80s, start listening to them now.
Listen to them.
Yeah, listen to it. So,
So
all right,
continuing, we were at number 7, and it is your turn.
okay. I'm gonna go with and I love her.
Okay.
Hard Day's Night, and just again another powerful ballad from Paul. You know, the we got to give credit to Paul for finally coming out and saying all those wonderful things about George, and his opening.
Doon, doon, doon,
Yeah,
doon.
exactly, for coming up with that. And should he have gotten songwriting credit for it? Maybe, but that's their problem. That's their deal. Let them
Yeah,
deal with that. you know,
very true.
so but yeah, I give her all my love. That's all I do. I mean, it's just a beautiful, beautiful track, and it fits. I don't know if it fits perfectly on that album or not. I don't know. I love Hard Day's Night because it's all so up. It's such a hard rocking record. You know what I mean?
It is,
And
and
go ahead. Yeah,
do you think it
yeah.
doesn't fit?
I
The
don't know if it
mood of
does.
the
Yeah,
album.
I don't know, but it's kind of like Six Out a little bit, but in a good way. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, they clearly liked it because they had
Oh
a scene
yeah.
for it in the
Oh
film.
well,
It
I'm
wasn't
not
like
saying that.
right.
I'm
It was,
yeah. Go ahead.
obviously there was like things we said today
Right.
was really just an album cut on side two, whereas "And I
Right.
Love Her" was obviously a significant scene in
Part
the
of
film.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But it's just like when I think of Hard Day's Night, I mean, I'm just more or less thinking of come on, man. Like
Should have known better.
yeah,
Hard Day's Night.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
Can't buy
I'm
me
happy.
love.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all those big, more upbeat tracks, and then you even got more of those, on the B side too. Is when I get
When
home
I get
too.
home. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me why.
Oh,
So um, but I mean, it's a standout track. On here now. The older I get, and it's beautiful, bright as the stars that shine, dark as the night. I know this love of mine will never die. It's just classic stuff from Paul that we still get, to this day. You
hands
know,
down.
yeah. So beautiful. Again, George's performance on that song is top notch. I know sometimes we tease George about some of his guitar work on early Beatles songs. You know, but this one he grand slam on this one. Two
Homer.
out base two out
Yeah.
bases loaded, and he swung for the fences, and
Yeah.
he came through.
Well, because it was so different. Because so many, to your point about how so much of the Beatles' music is so, and even just outside of Hard Day's Night, especially that early period, is so energy, so energy. So we're standing
Right.
there, and so that when they lightened things up or slowed things down, it was like, "Ooh, what's this going to be?" So that's one of those kind of classic McCartney songwriting. And again, the Jane Asher,
Right.
the muse, as you
Yep.
mentioned a couple songs ago,
Hmm.
the muse for these Beatle classics was
Right.
her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
nice
Good
choice
point.
there at number 7, sir.
Hmm.
Number 7 for me, I'm gonna go with 1965 single only. We Can Work It Out.
Mm.
At number 7 for me. Not much to say other than it's obviously it's a hit. It's a song that I've known since I was a kid because it was a major Beatle hit, and I think my first exposure to it probably was on the Red Album, as most people heard it, collecting. Although I think was on Yesterday and Today. That's actually probably when I
Hmm.
first heard it on there as well. Double A side. There's No Time for Fussing and Fighting.
Right.
All that. The John and Paul really is strong on that. But this is to me more of a Paul song, and Day Tripper is more of a John song, even though they both are on it. Would you agree?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Even though Paul's doing more of the lead on Day Tripper, you definitely hear John a lot throughout that whole song.
Yes, and I think and again, this is the classic. There's no life isn't short. And there's no time. That's the John and Paul songwriting. There's no time for fussing and fighting, my friend. And then right
Right.
into this. This is like the apex really of their collaboration. I think there's some of this stuff that came out in '65 before they started really writing separately. I think
Right.
1965 was the apex of their songwriting relationship, and on songs like We Can Work It Out and Day Tripper, you hear that
Hmm.
clearly. It happened on other points, obviously, A Day in the Life.
Oh, absolutely.
You
Getting
know,
better.
sure, but this period here, 1965, I think is the high water mark for that. And We Can Work. What can you say?
Right.
Classic track, and I would think it probably will be on your list too. Hopefully, we'll see.
Well, yeah, and and so what? 6 is next, or
6 for you, yes.
yeah? So I'll go. We can work it out as well. Try to see it
I'm writing
my
your list
way.
down. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
try to see it my way. Just the opening. Only time will tell if I'm right or I am wrong. Why see it your way? With the risk of knowing that our love, uh, what is it? Love
May soon be gone.
may soon be gone. So yeah. Again, um, it's very good song. It's one of my favorite singles from them. You can't um, push aside the work that what John did for that song with it's very powerful what he adds. And he always credits John for whatever he brings to one of his songs, whether it's paperback writer or getting better. Life is, like you said, you pointed out, life is very short. That stuff it's powerful. And then so I almost didn't include that one because I felt like that's more of a more what I mean. It's a co-write than it is more Paul had
Paul
a
song
song, and
solo,
which
yeah.
it is. But with the inclusion of John's bit, I almost left that out. But it's just too good of a song, to deny its place in anybody's top 10
No, and of course it's
you know
got the harmonium on it, which was played by George Martin, which now
right,
is Wix's moment now with
right,
during the live shows where
right.
Wick comes out and plays, reproduces that part and it's been a staple probably ever since. When did he first start playing We Can Work It Out? 1990. You
I
probably
thought it
saw
was
it in 90.
89, didn't he? He didn't do it in during the Flowers.
I don't think so. It's not on Tripping Live
Well,
Fantastic.
he did it on the Unplugged, right? Because isn't that the song he screwed up
Yeah,
on and
he
then went
screwed
back
up
to?
and then
Yeah,
he started again.
yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously it was in the set list in '93
Right,
for the New World Tour, which you
right.
saw. So no, it
Yeah,
was not. It was not in the set list for the 89-90, but it worked its way into Unplugged, and it's really kind of been in and out ever since that, of 30
right.
years on. So we matched up back to back there. So that's your
Yep,
number 6.
yep.
6 for me. You mentioned it a couple songs ago. Another Girl from Help.
Mm, good.
It's got to be in there. It's got to be in there for all the reasons we said. It's just a great song, great scene from the movie, and the songwriting is just off the charts. So
Mm-hmm.
that's easily said for me. It's 6-5 for you. Top five.
Wow. Fuck. Again, it's so weird because of that energy that we talked about. When there's so much energy going on, first couple songs, and all of a sudden, you just the song kind of or the album kind of like mellows out. Then with the slow one, and I'm going with Here, There, and Everywhere, which again another beautiful track. And that's what Revolver,
Yep.
and isn't that didn't he change a line in that for the
Broad Street.
Broad Street?
Yeah.
Yeah. He goes, what to lead a
To lead a
better
better
life,
life,
I need
I need a
a
love of my
love of my
own.
own, right? Instead
Yeah.
of I need my love to
To
be
be
here.
here.
Yeah. So again, it's you know Paul doing these soft ballads. I think sometimes people give him a little bit of crap for it, but these are some of the greatest Beatles songs, period. Some of these, softer, songs from Paul. And then I love the do do do. No. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of
And I
and I
love
love
her.
her. Right, but his vocals are just so smooth throughout this track.
How about the John and George and Paul with the oohing and the eyeing
Yeah.
too on that
Oh,
on the backing tracks, which you can now hear really well on the new
right.
Revolver.
What
You go,
Robert said. I want her. I love and I want her everywhere. They're here. I love it, and there. The next verse, and then I want her everywhere. I just love how he, puts the adds that into each verse, kind of like a way.
it's
Um, you know,
and it on Revolver, it's a tender ballad. When he's
right.
played it live, he's actually almost jazzed it up and rocked it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the live version on Back in the US or Back in the World. It's like a fast-paced version. It's totally sped up. The energy is different. It's not
Right.
a tender, slow ballad,
Mm.
Just a curious arrangement for
Right.
that tour that he did with it.
Yeah, and the last one too is each one believing that love never dies, watching her eyes and hoping I'm always there. I love all this stuff. It's again, I did I've always been a big ballad guy. I think we've talked about this before.
Oh yeah,
So
we're suckers for the ballads. We
we're
like them.
suckers for the ballad, but again, it's like when you're used to hearing so much energy, and then it just kind of slows down a little bit. It's kind of takes you as a surprise, or at least it did for me. During those early years, me discovering Beatles and stuff like that. So it's again, it's
A
top notch
worthy,
song. Yeah, yeah,
worthy of any top 10 all-time
I
Beatles
think
list. It
so.
could be
I
on
think so.
there. So I mean,
Yeah,
of course, it's going to be on the top 10
yeah,
Paul list, and good pick. Obviously, got to include it.
yeah. I think
Uh,
so.
I'm at a number 5 for me.
Yep.
Same album, not the same song, but
Mm.
we're going to go with "Good Day Sunshine"
Okay. Yeah.
at number 5 for me. Lightweight, maybe a little bit of a take on the Loving Spoonful Daydream type thing. But
Mm-hmm.
to me, it's Paul's ability for melody coming through at its strongest.
Mm.
Just to be able to write a pop, sunny song there for late, in the '60s, fits the bill. The honky tonk piano. I can't. I love "Good Day Sunshine" in all of its forms on the Beatle version. Live, of course. You had it. He did it live, and you got it. You got it released on the B side of the birthday single, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
On
Right.
the recent set. So it's a song that obviously he quite enjoys as well. Sang it to the astronauts in
Yeah.
space
Yeah.
on the Us tour. So
Right.
I've always enjoyed "Good Day Sunshine." It's probably more of a Paul and George Martin song
Right.
when you listen to it a little bit. But the lyrics obviously simple, breezy. That's the kind of stuff that I like as Paul, as you all know, as a songwriter. So "Good Day Sunshine" was going to be in a top 10 for me at
Hmm.
5.
Right. Yeah, that's a good pick. It didn't make mine. Again, uh, whether or not you think that's one of Paul's heavy hitters, It just didn't
Again,
make mine. It's a good track. I love it. Don't get me wrong. It's just didn't make it this time.
that's fine because we're
Yeah.
looking at pre
Yeah.
'67, and stuff that's not so obvious. So
Right.
that's to me the thing. And again, as Tom mentioned at the top, these are what our current favorites are now.
Right now. Right. Exactly.
So we are up to number 4, sir.
Number 4. Your day breaks, your mind aches. You find that all our words are kindnessly longing. On when she no longer needs you. And I know I just didn't do that any justice, but it's a one of his most powerful songs. I think Beatles songs. Some of his most powerful lyrics. Again, in that Jane songbook of songs, and you want her, you need her, and yet you don't believe her when she said her love is dead. You think she needs you. I just for someone at his age to write these lyrics, you know, and this sucks too because as he matures, you figure, but that love for Linda, he didn't, really necessarily experience the things he experienced with Jane, but you just don't get this kind of stuff from him from solo work, really. You know what I mean? It's just
No,
lyrically, these lyrics are just don't scream what 23, 24,
24-year-old guy
like,
at the time
exactly.
writing
Right,
something like "As Sad as for No One." I mean, come
right,
on, that's like Bach. It's that
right.
impressive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, that's my 4.
All right, 4 for me. We're going back to Help,
Mm,
and we're going to the scene. Where is this in the film? This is that scene in the fields with the
mm,
tanks and
right.
the night before.
4. Nice.
The night before, and
See, that wasn't originally on my list, but I had to bump it for something
oh,
else.
you 86'd it? Damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
The night before, kind of the same ilk as Another Girl.
Right.
Album cut, although it's obviously in the film, but it wasn't a
Right.
single. Could have been. He opened up his show at Yankee Stadium in 2011. I want to say I was there with The Night Before. Place went nuts, and I
Mm-hmm.
was one of them. It was crazy to hear him do The Night Before, one of those songs that he had never done live before, and he played it and opened up a show with it.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible. Just in terms, just of being just a great song. Another girl who will love me till the end, through thick and
Right.
thin. She
Then.
will, that bit of the song is what is the hook. Through thick and thin, she will love me till the end. And then the George, riff. And it's just a perfect song. But you did have it in your top. I knew you. I had a feeling you were going to have that one in your top 10 at some point. But then
Yeah.
you elbowed it. But
The night before. Yep.
that was my number 4. Top 3.
I love the opening chords to that. I love how it
Yeah.
sounds. I won't be able to do any justice, but I just love how it opens.
Oh, I have got. It was a bad version of it.
No, that's Another Girl.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
See, we were just talking about Another Girl.
Right. So,
I'm sorry. See, we were
yeah.
just talking. That's why both songs are so similar to me because they're in the
Right.
top 10. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
No,
So yeah, you just sang a verse from Another Girl.
See, I just did what you did.
Yeah.
See? You did it with "And I Love Her." I did it with Another
Right,
Girl.
exactly.
No, the bass.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
organ. Yeah, and then the
Yeah.
organ kicking into it. Yeah. Yeah, here we are. We're supposed to be some professional Beatle podcasters. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Right.
We don't even know what songs we're talking about.
Oh, I love when that stuff happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. Where were we at? 8?
3.
3? Yeah, 3, because we're going backwards. I'm gonna go with these 2 tracks from. I'm gonna go with these next 2 tracks are from Rubber Soul, and they're amazing lyrically. Again, one is "You Won't See Me." I love the time after time you
Oh.
refuse to even listen. I wouldn't even mind if I knew what I was missing. I mean, that is just killer.
Oh.
Killer lyric right there.
Jane Asher again.
Yeah. Was it till the days are few? It's just this one kills me too because this is like another one too that was just kind of like a little throwaway. As I was first discovering.
And it's again a killer song. It's an awesome freaking song. That's probably the song I play on Rubber Soul the most.
Right.
Yeah.
but that lyric again for me is why I love that song so much. Yeah.
Is that a inkling on a past issue
Yeah.
there somewhere, Tom?
Maybe, but because there's times where I do use like life experiences, and as
Sure.
reasons why I love certain songs, like I do. But you won't see me as and then again, when I call you up, your lines engaged too, because
When the hell did you ever
there's
hear the words "When I call you up, your
yeah,
lines"? I remember being like
yeah,
8, going, "Your lines
it's
engaged." What
engaged,
the hell
right?
does that mean? What does that mean?
Means it's
I'm,
busy.
yeah, I know, but when I was 8, I didn't know that. I'm like,
Right.
"Your lines engaged." I'm like, "What the hell is he talking about?" I didn't know as a kid, you know, like your lines. But anyway, when I call you up, your lines engaged in a song, in a popular song.
But just the word, the that word though, it's per I love it though, how he just uses engage for that, for that, for a telephone,
For a telephone,
right.
right? And that's
Yeah.
snippet of time, right?
Right. And then going into I've had enough, so act your age,
Yeah.
again, it just again, he just doesn't write songs like that anymore.
Middle eight, and then the middle eight, man. Time after
Yeah.
time, you refuse to even
Even
listen.
listen. Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah.
epic.
It
That
is. Yeah.
that's coming up as well in a couple songs for me, but not yet. Number 3 for
Okay.
me. We're going to 1964,
Okay.
but the origins of the song go back to the Liverpool days of when Paul was a teenager. That's
Mm,
how old this song is.
okay.
And the song in question, which eventually came out on Beatles for Sale and in the UK and Beatles 65 in America, is "I'll Follow the Sun."
Oh, okay.
That to me is top tier McCartney. Again, wasn't a single album track, but I think it is grown in stature over the years too. He obviously revisited live and did that fake ending 10 times, which was ridiculous,
Yes.
which I saw in person, and he did it like for like 5 minutes.
And they're going crazy. People
Go,
went crazy for
I
that.
know, just because it like the fake ending, the fake outs,
Right.
the fake outs, the fake outs, the fake outs. But just in its Beatles form, "I'll Follow the Sun" is just a killer acoustic ballad, and again, poignant lyric writing for somebody in their 20s, like you just
Right.
mentioned with For No One. "I'll
Hmm.
Follow the Sun." It's a song that you can think about, when you're thinking about your days and what you've done and what you've accomplished and what you haven't, or regrets and stuff like that. And so the time has come, so my love's going, and in the end I lose a friend, things like that. Those
Right.
lyrics, those really stick to you, especially when if you've experienced it, in my case, which I have. So that's what
Mm,
I think about when I hear that song. So
okay.
easily top 3 for me. Number 2 for you.
Well, this again, this track from Rubber Soul just has another powerful line in it that again, you can't believe that such a young man is writing this. But why, tell me, why did you not treat me right? Love has a
Um,
nasty habit of disappearing overnight. I'm looking through you. Again, such a powerful track that you wouldn't think. I mean, you listen to some of those later songs that once Jane is kind of like out of the picture, and then you listen to some of the ballads that he started doing for Linda. Just you just tell the difference in tone and change, and how his attitude. It's really just it's really fascinating when you look at the scope of those songs compared to the songs that he wrote for Linda, right? And like there's like nothing going wrong. There's everything is perfect, right, in the relationship for Linda. So there's no challenges whatsoever,
no,
And then and then you listen to these songs that he does, with Jane in mind, and
the
they're just
frustration. So
yeah, there's
so it makes you wonder.
frustration and challenges,
So if
yeah.
everything was like lovey dovey and perfect with Jane Asher, would we have gotten all these songs? Answer.
Exactly. We don't. I mean, if she becomes the housewife that he wants her to be, to stay at home and and have my slippers and drink ready when I get home, kind of thing. We don't get
we
any of
don't
these
we don't
songs.
get these songs.
You
We're not
know,
getting For No One. We're not getting You Won't See Me.
right?
I'm looking through you. We're not getting them.
Yeah. Your lips are moving. I cannot hear. Your voice is soothing, but the words aren't clear. You don't sound different, but I've learned the game. I'm looking through you. You're not the same.
I'm gonna put you on the spot now.
Oh.
What version? The false start version, or the one that made it on the album?
Yeah, the one that made it on the album. I mean, that's the one that I grew up, listening to,
Down
so.
down. But have you heard the false start version?
I'd have to listen to it again because if I have, it's been a long, long time. Yeah.
That's a good song too.
Yeah, but I'm looking through you. I just think it's one of his most powerful, throughout his time in the Beatles.
And I'm really glad that they cleaned it up, because the version that they were working with on Anthology 2, where it was kind of that slow,
right,
reggae version,
right.
that was not going to work.
No. Yeah,
they properly
changing it up. Yeah,
changing
definitely.
it was good. That whole slow shuffle beat version of the almost like a skiffle version of "I'm Looking Through You" that was on Anthology 2. I mean, interesting, but the album version obviously kicks that thing out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
So that was
Yep.
number 2 for you, brother.
That's 2 for me. What do you got?
2 for me. You mentioned it two songs ago, so we don't have to go over it. It's "You Won't See Me," one of my all-time favorite Paul songs. Beatle of the Beatle period, of all the whole Beatle period. If I was doing a top 10 of, say, between 62 and 70, "You Won't See Me" I think would be on the list. Including all that latter day stuff. I think that's how strongly I feel about it. And again, purely because everybody's like, "Oh, Norwegian Wood," all the songs that are on Rubber Soul. That one to me stands out. Michelle. I know a lot of people falling over Michelle and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think "You Won't See Me" is for all the reasons you stated, is a great song. Finally, in 2004 he played it live for the first time, which was so cool to see. So I believe he played it in Spain. Somewhere in 2004, it got its live debut, which was cool to see. And listen, for everything you said, that's why it's up there. So time for your number 1.
Oh boy. Paperback Writer. Hands down. I think it's one of their best singles of that period. Could be my favorite single from that period.
When you say that, what do you see me like this? What do you mean, between 62 and 66?
Yeah, during the red era, if that's what
It's our Red album, folks.
It's our Red album, yeah. Paperback Writer, I think is wonderful. Listening to the struggles of a inspiring writer. Dear sir or madam, will you read my book? It took me years to write. Will you take a look? Just listening to what this story is about. It makes me want to read something like this. And it's a dirty story of a dirty man and his clinging wife doesn't understand. It's just a fun track, and it's this is the kind of stuff why I love McCartney as a songwriter, as a singer. I love the Paperback Writer when all 3 of them come in and go paperback, right?
And then the Farajaka, Farajaka backing too.
Right. I'm not the biggest fan of it live. But just killer. The opening guitar riff, is killer. And this one rocks for me, and so much pleasure listening to the song over the last 40 years or so.
Easily. I think this is one of those songs that I think always irritated John, because Paul could always write about, Jim
everyday
Smith,
person,
every day, and this is the kind of song lyrically that I always think drove John crazy, because he's like, Paul can write about Mr. and Mrs. Smith walking down the road, or the guy writing a book, and John couldn't do that, but it just wasn't his writing style. I know it was always a bone of contention, because Paul could just write about the average person, and then he could do it. But obviously, you can't go wrong with Paperback Writer there, brother. I think it did not make my top 10. I think from the production, not so much about the lyrics. I mean, the lyrics are okay, but the production of the song and the vocals and the harmonies and the musicianship of the song and the production of it, to me, and the bass playing on it. The bass playing on this song is off the charts.
Killer.
Because you can, and you notice, I think in the Lewison, in the recording sessions book, there's an interview that Lewison does with Paul. to open that book, and Mark asks him and says, "Hey, starting in 1966, the Beatle records have a really increased sound and bass." And
Right.
he specifically mentions Paperback Writer, and Paul goes into why it was, and it was so prominent on a song like that, and even the B side, Rain.
Hmm.
But again, live, I think you're right. Live, it's a little tough to reproduce, especially as he
Right.
got older.
Yeah. All
Um,
right. I'm curious. You're number one.
it's been said already. It was your number 4, but for
Mm.
me, it's my number 1, and that is For No One.
Ah.
It's for no. It's Baroque 1960s pop at its finest.
Hmm.
And I've always enjoyed the blend of kind of classical and rock together. So within a lot of the music that I like, it turns later
Hmm.
on going into prog. Not that this is, I mean, you could call Revolver early prog, but that kind of mix and clash of styles where you're getting popular music and classical stuff intertwined,
Right.
you
Right.
get that with on For No One. Again, the descending melody in For No One on the chords with the piano.
Well, almost every.
It goes down. It starts
Right.
up and goes down. Your day breaks, your mind aches.
Right.
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I was saying almost every song on Revolver can be like, it's got its pop rock roots, but then they interweave a different genre of music, whether it's like acid rock, garage rock, or classic,
Psychedelic rock or
psychic,
whatever.
classical R&B.
Yeah.
Just about every track on Revolver has that.
Some element of it, but
Indian,
yes,
as well.
the
Yeah,
Eastern
yeah.
influence at the time, which is why that album is so celebrated as it should be.
Right.
But for me, For No One, the ballads as we talked about, the melancholiness of For No One is something I've always enjoyed that. I
Hmm.
love the version that is on Broad Street. I think it's great that he revisited that. He's played it live a couple of times since then, but not too many. I
Right.
think it was in the set list in 2005 for the Chaos Tour. Um, there's hardly a version of it that I don't like, but for me, that's the one to go to. And I wish we got a little more outtakes of that on the Revolver box set. We didn't, but we didn't get. I would love to hear work in progress stuff of For
Hmm.
No One to
Right.
hear how it came through. But for me, that again, if I'm doing a top 10 Beatles list, For No One's going to be on there as well too. I've always enjoyed that song.
Hmm.
Going back, since my early days of Beatle fandom. So for me,
Right.
that was a home run of a pick to round out the top 10 for the pre 1967 songs. We'll call it. It's like this is our red album. This is our red
Right.
album
This
Paul
is our
episode,
red album, right?
and that's going to round out our top 10 for both. So
Yeah, it's a
that's
fun
it.
list. Yeah, good idea, partner.
Good exercise. So Thomas, tell us what's coming up for Talk More Talk and you.
Well, talk more talk. We had to take a little bit of a break for personal reasons, so we'll be back soon. Though I know we're lining up an interview with Cozen and Sinclair for the McCartney interview or McCartney Legacy book. So we'll be doing that, and I don't want to give too much else away of what we're doing or what we're planning in the future. But yeah, that will be coming up soon. Again, our regular schedule show had to be mixed up a little bit because of personal issues. But other than that, we got that coming up, and a lot of other great shows. I know we're going to be revisiting another Listen series that we do again real soon, and unfortunately my laptop took a crap on me, so because I do want to start
I
a
was gonna
movie.
say, I was gonna ask you about that. What are we? How's the movie channel coming along?
Well, see, yeah, so when we do or when I do get finally do get a new laptop, because I normally just use the tablet, but right now I'm actually using my wife's brand new laptop. So um but when I
Thank you, Mrs. Anyadi.
yes, yeah. So when I get the new one, then I am going to you know try to get the finishing touches on a YouTube movie channel. Um, People that know me from hanging out on Joe Mayo's live streams, and sometimes we'll talk about it over here too. I'm a huge film junkie, so
I think
I
you're as
would
much
like.
of a movie junkie as you are a music junkie.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Maybe
maybe
even
maybe
even
a little,
more.
maybe slightly more.
More, right?
Yeah, maybe slightly more. And maybe sometime in the future, maybe we can do a top 10 favorite films or something like that if you
On Two
want.
Legs?
Yeah,
Sure.
just for a little, just for a little, sideshow or something
Hey,
like
well,
that.
we've done that. We did our favorite
Yeah,
albums outside of the Beatles. I wouldn't mind doing a top 10 film thing.
yeah, maybe we can post it in the middle of the week or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah,
You
that'll be a lot of
definitely
fun.
would outclass me in your film knowledge. I mean, because in your collection,
Maybe
you've seen so much. I mean, I've got
I,
my
I've
favorites, but
I've probably forgotten more movies than people have seen,
yes,
and there'll be times where I'm running through an actor's filmography, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I did see that one. It's just like,
yeah.
because there's times where I've just seen so many, especially growing up too. When I remember when we first got HBO, it was just
Whoa.
exactly, the heavens opened, and it was just like, you know.
Yeah.
But anyways, but yeah, thank you. So yeah, I mean, so at the end, I think when is this getting posted? By the way,
This is now airing on the 28th of January.
yeah, by that time we should be. I think the 30th will be our next.
Talk More Talk, right?
Next talk more talk. Yeah.
All right. So that's
Yeah.
that's the update for the Talk More Talk gang. And again, if they're just, I mean, followers of this show probably know them, but they're just, I remember just discovering it and thinking, oh, these are some cool people. Here we are now, a couple years later, and we've gone to conventions together and fests and symposiums, and it's just been so great to kind of get into that network of people and meet so many people. And the fest will be here in a few months, so.
Yes, it is. Yep.
And looking forward to that as well, and seeing everybody from Talk More Talk, and everybody that has supported the show since we've been going. So that's going to wrap it up for us. I mean, other than that, I've got an unboxing for the Dylan set, which will by the time this posts, I'll already have it, but I don't know if it's going to be. I don't know if I'll have the video up yet. But my unboxing on that, as I talked about, will be up on my own channel. Andy's Music Vault, The Other Leg, in a couple of days, and a couple of concerts. I've got Denny Lane in February in New York.
Yes.
I'll be seeing him in a couple of weeks in New York City. I've got John Anderson in April in New York as well. So the concert season is off and running in 2023. Not as prolific as it was in 22 so far, but we'll see.
Not yet. Yeah, we'll see. We'll definitely see. But don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Two Legs Podcast, and email us at twolegspodcast@gmail.com. If you have a suggestion for the show, please feel free to email us. I mean, yeah, we don't usually run out of ideas, but every once in a while we like to slip in a guest suggestion from time to time. So just
That's
like
it.
we did last week.
Just like we did last week with the album game, and we'll continue that again. I know we got a couple. I think Matt emailed us on his. We'll discuss that at some point too. I saw an email from him as well. Thank you. And that's going to do it for us this week for episode 194. So for my co-host, Mr. Tom Agnotti, I'm Andy Nichols signing off, and we'll see you next time on Two Legs. See ya.
Take care.
Listening to Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast, hosted by Tom Agnotti and Andy Nichols, with musical contributions by Dylan